Ladies and gentlemen, I don't even know where to begin. The madness is about to unfold around the world. I don't know what to even talk to you about. We have got madness happening in the charts with Bitcoin taking a nice little move to the upside, which we will be talking about very shortly. We've also got banks across the US talking about that the banking crisis is going to cause so many problems in the near future, yet the market is shooting up. Took a little bit of a move down today with the S&P, gave back all of its gains. We'll be looking into that very shortly. But the big thing right now, ladies and gentlemen, is China is doing the cloak and dagger. Oh, my days. China is now slowly but surely making sure that if the US is even going to try and impose any sanctions on China, the same way they did with Russia, how do you get away from sanctions? Well, sanctions on oil, sanctions on wheat, sanctions on coffee, orange juice. What's it all brought in? Dollars. So as long as you keep buying everything in dollars, well, we're going to put a cap on that. So what's China trying to do? China's just going to start making their own currency with the good old help from BRICS. In tonight's live, we're going to be taking a look into how the French president, good old Macron, is now talking about maybe not having so much of a good relationship with the US. China, man, they are there getting ready to sweep up everything all under the nose of the US. Yet the US has not retaliated to whatever's been going on in the space of the world today. So, as always, if you are new to the flavor of this channel, mad love and respect for passing through, let's have a conversation. So, Bitcoin price action, but we ain't going to be talking about that yet because Bitcoin is hitting the news, man. 80% rally so far, so good. Let's get rid of this. 80% rally. So Bitcoin's in the papers, man. Bitcoin's getting the attention that it needs. And that's what we want to see. We really want to see Bitcoin being spoken about like that. But you know what they say, buy on rumor, sell on news kind of story. Look, Bitcoin is doing a good job across the board. Still holding out, given that the S&P did take a bit of a nosedive to the downside. But what's more important is this. When you start seeing articles about Bitcoin, it's hitting the average person who may or may not be aware of what cryptocurrency is. Simply seeing Bitcoin is up 80% is going to be putting the idea out to people that, you know what? This looks like a good investment. But then when you start going into the idea of what's actually going on in the financial world, you've got top Fed officials debating the idea of further rate increases, and they don't want to actually screw the economy just because of what's gone on with the banks. So we know that the Federal Reserve is going to increase interest rates yet again. And it doesn't stop there either. Going into tomorrow, we actually have the most critical data coming out, okay? CPI data, which is why guys like this are talking about patience with regards to the monetary policy, because people are waiting for a soft landing. In other words, when the Fed increases the interest rate so much, how is the economy going to take it? Is it going to be a soft landing? Is it going to, come back up into the economic growth, or is it going to experience a hard landing, which in principle means that the economy is going to suffer greatly for it? And we already see that is happening across the board. Now, going into this, we got BlackRock suggesting that the Fed won't be able to bring inflation down to its target, and Americans will have to live with high prices for a long time. So now listen, this is what you've got to look at it as. Years of high prices. All right, so what? Are we just going to be jumping in between 5.5% inflation, 6.5% inflation? Because tomorrow they are projecting that inflation data is going to come out and suggest a reduction from 6% down to 5.1%. If there is a reduction in inflation, the market will welcome that and it will probably shoot up even more, which could explain why Bitcoin is holding out. It could explain why the S&P made a nice move to the upside, but then came back and pared its losses, okay? So we've got to be very cautious with what we do from now up until the news release that comes out tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time, and of course before the New York market open at 1:30 GMT. Now, this is where it gets interesting. If BlackRock is suggesting that the Fed is not able to achieve its 2% target. Well, we only need to go back to what Ray Dalio said, and he even said it, that it's going to be unrealistic for the Fed to get to 2%, maybe 4.5%. Do you know what that means? That undermines the purpose of the Fed, and the Fed is not going to allow the US or the people of the US to undermine them whatsoever. You've got Wall Street listening onto every single word that the Federal Reserve says. They've even got an old school saying that says, don't fight the Fed. But the Fed is there scratching its head like, especially Jerome Powell. He sat there scratching his head thinking, hold on a second, man, we keep increasing these interest rates and I don't even know where this is going because inflation is still sticky and that's the problem, okay? Now, given that oil has made a big move to the upside, we need to understand if tomorrow's reading is going to build that in. Because we have seen inflation has come in lower, but it hasn't priced in the idea of oil being expensive. So we're going to see some interesting data coming out tomorrow. If the inflation data does come in lower, then happy days, the market will move up. And I'm going to be diving into the charts very shortly, okay? Then you get stuff like this, man. I mean, look, I'm all down for the move to the upside. I'm down for the move to the downside. But look, Wells Fargo's even suggesting that a 10% correction is on the cards, which could mean that if the S&P is going to drop, we're looking at 3,700. Is that what we really want to be hearing? Because all they're suggesting it on is the fact that the economy of the US is starting to slow down. And that's what they're suggesting, that a big correction is going to come to the marketplace. Now, we keep on seeing these detrimental comments about the market, but the market is not budging. It's just going up and pricing in what it's going to look like in the future. That's all they're doing right now. Now, there is word on the street that this is a huge short squeeze, suggesting that there are many, many short positions that are open right now. And the last time that happened was when it was about to explode to the upside. So there was the big bull market happened when there were many, many short positions opened up. And that's why price is just moving up and up and up, because people are like, hold on a second, we've got high interest rates, we've got bank failures, we've got tensions overseas. Why is nothing dropping? What do you want me to say to you? What can I say to you guys? It's moving up. So we use the hybrid system, of course, to help us understand how likely the momentum is going to continue in our favor. All right? Now, stick with me on this one. I've got a couple of more things to explain before we go into the charts. And if you are new to the channel, mad love and respect for passing through. Subscribe if you're enjoying this and it puts a smile on your face. That's all I'm interested in. All right? So let's listen to this. This guy. Right, this guy has got his priorities somewhere else, man. He's got protests happening in his country because he's raised the limit on when people can claim on their pensions. Now, they are not happy with that, given that they did storm BlackRock's headquarters in Paris. And he's over in China trying to get China to tell Russia, yo, man, just calm down a little bit, you know, just take the pedal off the gas. But at the same time, he's suggesting that it wouldn't be in France's favor to actually have ties with the US if there is a continuous debate, or should I say tensions continue to rise with China and Taiwan. This is what I'm saying about cloak and dagger, right? China's now swooped in to France. They're just picking off all the countries that they need, given that France, if I put this into perspective, France in 2022, okay, traded more than $115 billion worth of goods and services with the US, okay? And France is the third largest trading partner for the United States. And then second, you've got Canada and Mexico. Well, we know what happened with Mexico, given that he's turned around and said, yeah, I'm not interested in doing business with the US anymore. And now we've even got this bad boy right here. The Trudeau Foundation itself resigns because of a donation by a Chinese billionaire. Back to the idea of cloak and dagger. China's going in and swiping everyone up, because this is the truth, ladies and gentlemen. As I said to you before, the only way that you can get away from sanctions, okay, is if you don't use the currency that is imposing the sanctions. And let's just put things in perspective. Do you think this is what's going to be happening? Is China just literally going in and taking everyone by storm? It's like the US ain't got a good name right now, and that's a bit of a shame. But yet the US has yet to retaliate. That's the interesting thing. Now, what's more important is this. China is simulating striking Taiwan on the second day of drills. Now, this was done on April the 9th. And the president of Taiwan did come out and say that even the slightest mishap on these drills is going to start a war. So this is the problem we've got. China sends a balloon up. It triggers the US's attention. They shoot it down. Then we have all these UFO madness coming out. Oh, my God, what was it? Was it a plane? Is it a bird? Is it Superman? Whoever. All right? What I'm trying to get into your minds is this. China is provoking, yet the US ain't doing anything. What is the US doing? Now, we know that if other people were in power, they wouldn't be doing this in the first place. But why is China going for Taiwan? Well, Taiwan is the largest producer of semiconductors. And what did Biden... Biden decided to say, you know what, we're not going to allow China to take advantage of a $52 billion funding in relation to the semiconductor industry. On top of that, you've got Biden saying that he wants the US to be one of the main producers of semiconductors. Is this China's way of sticking it to the US because of that reduction in that funding? Is that what it's all about? Is China literally going forward and prepared to go on all-out war? And it's going to start with Taiwan, because the only way that they can squeeze the US without going to war with the US, they go for the one thing that the US requires so badly, and that's semiconductors. Because you ain't going to be able to make these planes and big airships and what have you to start attacking all these countries if you don't have the semiconductors and the microchips that are designed to program all these big machines. So all these defense contracts, okay, that the US is giving out, well, they're going to end up spending more and more money, and it's not going to be a viable thing if China says, you know what, we're not going to give you any semiconductors, so you can't fly your planes, you can't attack us. Now, I'm obviously just saying that just to put things into perspective, and is that the real scenario? But no. What I'm trying to get you to understand is this is what China's trying to do. It's trying to do it from an economic point of view. Maybe not go into an all-out war with the US, but what's the US going to do if that does happen and China does actually go into war with Taiwan? Oh, by the way, we got Russia and Ukraine, and that beef is still happening. And more importantly, these US defense contracts in relation to the Russia and the Ukraine war, they're on for about a year or two. Now, that war in Russia and Ukraine, that's going to keep on going on, ladies and gentlemen, because these contracts need to be fulfilled, and that's the truth. So you just got to be really, when you do look at things, you got to say to yourself, you know what? Yes, the markets are going to shit, all right? Well, the economy is going to shit, and that's coming from good old BlackRock and Wells Fargo suggesting it's all going to go to the pan. Then you got tensions overseas. You're only thinking it's going to be in turmoil. At the end of the day, Wall Street still needs to make its money, so it's not going to leave it in bonds. It's going to start putting it into assets, and we can see that is evident in the charts. Now, something for you before we go to the charts, ladies and gentlemen, and mad love if you have made it this far. This is very interesting. Traders are betting against airlines at the highest rate since the pandemic, okay? Now, what's interesting is this. Mortgage rates are so high right now. That means that mortgage defaults are due to happen. That means people are going to be prioritizing on their payments. So they want to make sure that they've got a home to live in rather than go on a plane and chip overseas and sit on a beach thinking about how they're going to earn the next buck when they come back to their home back in the US or the UK, for example. So a lot of traders are now starting to go short on airlines because high interest rates, cost of business is going to be increasing, funding or credit is getting harder and harder to obtain at a fair value. So they're starting to short a lot of these companies. Now, I'm pulling over right here a list of these stocks that you could check out. So you've got Sun Country Airlines, all right, market cap 1,160 million, and it only recently got listed on the US stock market, and it's currently trading at $20. Now, look, it's a low cap because it's only just recently been listed on the stock market. Now, what does that suggest to you? Well, you want to be looking at the bigger players, all right? So Ryanair, we know, is the bigger player in the airline business, and you can see at $94 with a market cap of 21.42 billion, they're going to see a potential reduction in their revenues because of what's going on economically around the world. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to collapse, but traders are looking at the macros and suggesting that people are going to be spending less money and not looking at going overseas, given that the data that they're suggesting is saying that less people are booking holidays, okay? They're starting to see softer results on their websites about people showing an interest in going overseas. Now, that does, well, we've got COVID and what have you and all that BS that's going off. So even Biden said it himself that there's going to be another second pandemic. So, I mean, what more do you need, ladies and gentlemen? This plate of shit right here is the world, okay? And on this plate, we've got an option to add more shit to it, even though it's overflowing, okay? And whatever we add to it, it's not going to make a difference because it's still overflowing with shit. So, again, whatever we are presented with, people are just going to say, well, it's hit the pan, so can't do nothing much about it. Carry on. That's the truth of what's going on in the world, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, Ryanair Holdings, check it out. Good little company right there. Copa, we got CPA right there. Still holding out for an airline, but this is something that's going to be projected in the near future, all right? Because if interest rates are still high and they keep on increasing them, people are going to be more reluctant to spend money, which is why the actual idea of inflation coming down is consistent with the Fed increasing interest rates because people, it's getting too expensive. I paid £7 again for the eggs. That's the truth. I paid £7 again today for these organic eggs. Organic or free range, whatever the mad it is, man. I don't even care. Anyways, let's get with some price action. Ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoin's done some flavor today. Yeah? Today in the New York live stream, we were talking about the importance of this area and how we were trying to structure the logic of price holding in and around this 50 EMA cloud. Now, it's been a very choppy day, and we saw Bitcoin make the move to the upside, spike that 30,400 zone, going into the high block itself. What did they take, ladies and gentlemen? They took $5.197 billion worth of short liquidations. And it's going to continue if people are fighting the idea that Bitcoin can't go up. Well, there was a little advert. Bitcoin is up 80%, so why can't it be up 90%? Why can't it be up 100%? That's how the retail trader's going to see it. Look, man, what's it? New York Times. Derek, who walks his dog down Central Park, is going to see that and be like, you know what? Man, Bitcoin's made a big move. I fucked it when I've missed on nearly 80% of it. What if it's going to go to 100%? That's the rationale of a retail trader. All right? Going back into the chart itself, the logic would assume, okay, that if Bitcoin is spiking up and eating this liquidity here, it's telling me that people are trying to force shorts. So that only means Bitcoin's going to keep moving up. If Bitcoin doesn't hold 30, it's yippee-ki-yay to the downside. Simple as that. All right? Now, we break it down in terms of the hybrid. And again, if you are new to the channel, just go over to tradersreality.com. It's pinned to the top of the chat, and you can download this indicator free of charge and tune into the New York live streams where I talk about how to use it. And you can go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/tradersreality, where you can learn about applying it on smaller time frames and use different strategies within the hybrid. Because, guys, there are many, many strategies that you can use with the hybrid, all suited to whether you're a day trader, swing trader, you want to work on the 1 minute time frame. Happy days, there's a strategy for you. But just go to the start here tab and just work your way down the 4 steps. All right? Wicked. Now, going back into the chart. Given Bitcoin's moved up, we got this red vector candle region right here. Now, if Bitcoin is in the mood to start spiking up and eating liquidity, then one is going to be of the impression that Bitcoin's probably going to try and do it again. All right? Now, it's important that you understand that we're stuck at this 30 zone, all right? And everyone's pumped about Bitcoin and everyone's pumped about crypto. We go into the higher time frames and we can see that, look, these wicks to the upside, we want more of these candlesticks where there is a conviction to push price higher. When you see them spike up and reject, okay, it's just consistent with a stop run. What do we mean by stop run? Well, look at this. This is an area of liquidity where the market can travel towards, okay? So if the market is down here, okay, up here, You've got traders who've got limit orders, you've got liquidations, you've got players who want to go short, people that want to go long, and the market is going to do its best to try and move towards this area because this is where the liquidity is at, okay? Now, the problem that I've got is if Bitcoin moves up towards it at speed, bang, shifts up and comes back down again, it only tells me that the market, in essence, or the market maker, is only interested in grabbing liquidity. Bitcoin is up nearly 80%, okay? That's nothing to shy away from. Are we going to get a correction in Bitcoin, or is Bitcoin going to start behaving like the true hedge that it needs to be? That is the question, ladies and gentlemen. The daily time frame itself, good, strong move, okay? And it's still trading positive. We've got another 2.5 hours yet until the daily candle closes. And one would be of the impression that if they can close even more into this candle wick, then the next candle is going to be a continuation even higher. But let me just draw your attention to something. We've got the S&P right here, guys. Let me just bring it up for you. The S&P today saw a nice little move to the upside, but then it gave it all back. And that's not really good, okay? This was just consistent with a stop hunt rise, again, what we spoke about, and then it rips to the downside. Now, Bitcoin did sort of that earlier on, but it's now trying its best to come back up into the range, all right? Again, people are trying to run the market lower and they're not seeing the success. As long as the S&P can sustain above the moving average, which is this 50 EMA zone, then happy days. But if it doesn't hold out this area, because we can expect the S&P to come back up and recover some of this red vector, because if you look at these vector zones right here. You see that? Recovery back up, okay? You see that vector? Recovery back up, yeah? This vector, recovery back up, all right? There is a profile of movement which is suggesting that they're going up, taking the shorts, coming back down, building more longs, and then moving price back up again. That's what's going on in the marketplace overall. Now, we've got these vector candles right here, which could be a problem. The only way price is going to come down towards this point, and the same goes for Bitcoin, all right? The only way Bitcoin's going to come back down to these zones right here is if the inflation data tomorrow really rocks the marketplace. And that's it. We've got the FOMC minutes happening tomorrow at 7 p.m. Now, it's just a minute, so it's just a statement of what is going to be said going into, or what they're projecting out to be in the meeting in May. Now, we know that the Fed wants to increase interest rates again, all right? Tell us something new, Tino. But that's what the truth is, okay? The minutes will bring a lot of volatility as well. The press conference of the Canadian dollar is going to also give us some insight into how oil is going to be behaving. Now, oil, look at this, man. Oil ain't stopping, all right? There's no recovery of this gap. Look at that. They don't want this gap. Now, the more oil goes up, the more the US dollar against the Canadian dollar is going to keep moving down, okay? But let me just draw your attention to something. If we go over to the dollar dominance today has done really well, in my opinion. Bitcoin's moved up, S&P moved up, Euro moved up, but dollar's still holding out. So whatever you say about this BRICS and China and all of this madness that's going off in trying to remove the dollar, okay? As long as the dollar dominance is holding out in these zones, then things are pretty good, all right? Forget speculation of news. Focus on what the chart's doing, and then you're going to have a better insight into what is actually going on, because they're still buying oil in dollars, they're still buying coffee, they're still buying orange juice, they're still buying wheat, they're still getting corn, they're still doing soya, all in dollars, all right? So it's all going to be a speculation from now until the CPI data comes out tomorrow. Once the data comes out tomorrow, you're free to trade. I'm not saying that you shouldn't trade, but what I'm saying to you is just be very careful in case the reading does come in and it's actually higher than 5.1%, okay? Just be mindful of that. Going into Euro USD, we can see Euro on the 1 hour time frame trying its hardest to hold out in this area. Not really that much activity in Euro, but we have got a vector candle right here that we need to be very mindful of. And given that the market is waiting for tomorrow's news announcements, it's pretty much going to be quiet probably from now until that point. If the market kind of knows that inflation is going to come in lower, then we're probably going to see Asia tonight react and move price even more, which is where Bitcoin is going to come back up and recover this wick right here on the 1 hour time frame. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's video live stream. If there's anything else you want me to talk about, put it in the comment section and I will do a deep dive into it. But more importantly, tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning Eastern Standard, that's when the CPI data comes out. My advice is you wait till it comes out and then go about your day trading. Simple as that, all right? Because we're going to have a clear outlook on what we can expect from the Fed. If the inflation data comes in anything more than what they are estimating, then we've pretty much got bad news is bad news. We just then know that the Fed is just going to keep increasing interest rates. And it's just going to keep doing that until we get the interest rate increase, which breaks the system. That's the truth. So, mad love and respect. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have yourself a good evening. Check in with you all tomorrow for the New York live stream. Peace.